Denver Sports presents the Mile High Hockey Podcast with Mike Evans, presented by Fort Comfort Gutters. Now here's your host with the latest on the Burgundy and Blue, Mike Evans.
Hey everybody, welcome in to the Mile High Hockey Podcast. I'm Mike Evans, and got a lot to react to before the Avalanche. This will be our final podcast before they go into their long All-Star break, and I'm glad they do that, by the way. I know it kind of probably stinks for you as a hockey fan to go without the Avalanche for the next, about 10 days, but it's good for the players. It's such a grind. My goodness. I know that we as fans look at what these guys do as pro athletes, and it's awesome, the money they make, the lives they live, but they work hard. They grind, and for them to be able to get a break like this during the course of the season, I think is tremendous. And if it means that when they come back for the stretch run, the second half of the season, that they're refreshed and ready to go, and it's going to lead to better hockey, then I think we all benefit from that. But we are talking here in the aftermath of what we've been watching from Nathan MacKinnon of late, culminating with that 4-goal performance the other night against Washington. And what can you say about Nathan MacKinnon? The guy is playing at a level that we've never seen before. So the question's why? Why is he doing something that, as great as he's been to this point in his career, he has done the unimaginable and gone to a whole nother level, a level that better, and I mean better, because if you're a MVP Hart Trophy voter and you have a chance to watch this, if you somehow find a way to vote for anybody other than Nathan MacKinnon as the MVP in this league, shame on you, and you should have your vote taken away. Because I don't know who you could make a case for that's been better than Nathan MacKinnon has been this season. And by the way, for a team that has been one of the best teams in hockey for the last several years, won a cup 2 years ago, and is a heavy, heavy favorite to do so again. Why the contributions of a Nathan MacKinnon on this hockey team do not automatically lead to an MVP award? I don't know what you're watching. I don't know what you're looking for, because Nathan MacKinnon has brought everything you want. He's brought the performance. He's brought the leadership. He is a mammoth part of the Avs culture as to why they are the team that they are now and have been for a long time. And if you can't see that as an MVP voter, then, again, I don't know what you're watching. I really don't. He's been that great this year. And the numbers, sure, they jump off the page. Most points in the NHL, the goals, the point streak to start a season at home. He's doing it all. He's playing 200 feet of hockey. He's been as good defensively as he's ever been in his career. So why? Why is this guy at the level he's at? And Jared Bednar was speaking at length about MacKinnon and why he's having the season. And Bednar's in that position that, like a Michael Malone sort of finds himself in when you're asked every night about Nikola Jokic. It's the same thing with Nathan MacKinnon. How do you take whatever adjectives you've used up to a certain point to describe somebody and then try to find that next level of adjectives to describe? And it's funny watching Bednar and listening to Bednar the other night. He's like, look, this guy was already at a crazy, crazy high level when it came to the dedication, the obsessiveness, the ferocity in which this guy carries himself and the work that he puts in off the ice. He said, but he's actually gone to another level this year. He told a great story. And if you've been following Nathan MacKinnon's career throughout his career, you know that going back early on that he created some buzz because he would insist that at the training table that a certain kind of pasta sauce would not be served because it was too fattening. Get rid of the Alfredo sauce. It's too fattening. It's not healthy enough. This is how in tune he was with his habits and how he wanted the rest of the team to follow suit. Well, Bednar shared the story the other night. He said, we are the latest arriving team in the NHL. Whatever city we're going to, even if we're going back home, we are the latest arriving team in the NHL. Why? Because Nathan MacKinnon has a post-game routine that he will not give up, he will not sacrifice, and we are all forced, and I'll come back to that word forced in a second, we're all forced to follow. And basically, after playing 25, 26 intense minutes on the ice, Nathan MacKinnon puts in another 25 to 30-minute hard workout, usually riding the exercise bike, after the game is over. So whereas most teams, especially when they're on the road, it's a quick exit. Everybody gets in, they shower, they pack up the bags, they throw them on the bus. Usually within like 30 to 45 minutes after a game ends, these guys are gone. They're on the bus to the plane, on the plane, away they go. So with the Avs, and because MacKinnon has this regimen that he follows, they wait. As Bednar joked, he said, I go to work for an hour. I get on my laptop. I start doing some work for an hour while we're waiting for the bus to leave. And he said that whereas most teams get to their next site around 1 a.m., we get in around 2 a.m. But he was saying all this not in a way like rolling his eyes like, oh, my God, I can't believe we have to accommodate Nathan MacKinnon. It's an understanding that, and that's why I use the word forced. They're not forced. They do it because Nathan MacKinnon is arguably their best player, and because this works for him, why would we want to take that away from him? And the other thing, too, is it sets an example. Guess what? Nathan MacKinnon now isn't the only person working out after a game. Other players are putting in the same kind of work. And it leads to what I want to talk about here today is the part of Nathan MacKinnon's season and the way that he's playing and what jumps out at me. Because, yeah, do I see the numbers? Do I see the stats and all that? And am I as just impressed by those as you are, the stats and the eye test? Sure. But the thing about MacKinnon that I love, and I wrote an article at denversports.com, and I compared MacKinnon and Jokic in the same breath. I am somebody as a sports fan, I'm fascinated by culture. I'm fascinated by what makes a winning culture. Why is it that one team has a winning culture? Why is it that another team doesn't? And it doesn't simply just come down to talent, because there have been plenty of talented teams that have underachieved. There have been plenty of teams that haven't been as challenged that end up playing at very high levels, that win championships, that overachieve. Why? It's something that's always interested me. And so the idea of a culture that surrounds a team, how does it come to be? What is it? What does it look like? What does it feel like? How do you build it? How do you sustain it? And I know that when people talk about culture, they oftentimes, in my opinion, mistakenly, think that it has to come from the coach. Oh, the coach sets the culture. No, not at all. The coach can come in and say, hey, this is what I believe the culture should be. This is what I think it should look like. These are some of the parameters or outlines of what I think this culture should be. But unless you have the player buy-in, it won't work. And unless your best player, your hardest worker, is the one that buys in, that's how a culture starts to get formed. So when I look at Nathan MacKinnon and I hear Jared Bednar talking about a Nathan MacKinnon, this is what culture is. And when you are a player on the Avalanche, I don't care if you're a veteran or a young player or if you're somebody that's been here a while or simply got traded into the Avs or signed as a free agent, you spend 10 minutes around the Avs and you understand, oh, wait a minute, this is how Nathan MacKinnon does things. This is the work he puts in. Wow, look at the work. Look at the results. I can't argue with the results, but I guess I never realized how much work he put in. Suddenly you see a Nathan MacKinnon grinding away on an exercise bike 25 minutes after he just played 25 minutes, and you start realizing, wow, that's the way this guy works. And then you look around and you see other guys doing it. You're like, that's the way these guys work? I bet you there have been players, young players and even veteran players, that have come to the Avalanche over the last couple of years and have come in with the idea that I know what working hard is all about. Or at least I thought I knew what working hard is all about. Then I come here and I see Nathan MacKinnon doing that to the point where the whole team is holding up their departure onto the next city and willing to arrive an hour later than most NHL teams would because they want to encourage this and understand that this is what is part of the process for Nathan MacKinnon, is what it's part of the process of this team. Then you know what that is? That is a living, breathing, winning culture. And you start to think, okay, what's the definition of a culture? In this case, I think it's clear. And I'm not saying that Nathan MacKinnon is the only one that works hard and not other players don't work hard, but we're talking about MacKinnon in the midst of what should be a Hart Trophy season, an MVP season, and you start to try to figure out what makes this guy tick, and you start to understand what this guy's all about, his work ethic, his work habits, his almost fanatical approach to how he goes about his career and preparing to play and recovering from playing, and then you realize that other guys on the team are following suit. Man, it's, I've always felt like if you look at the great dynasties in sports, right? And Michael Jordan with the Bulls. Phil Jackson once famously said, "Do you understand how easy my job is as a coach when I come to work, and every single day I come to work, I know that my best player, the best player on the planet, is going to be the hardest working guy on the floor that day. Do you realize how easy that makes my job?" Tom Brady, for years in New England, you hear stories from veteran players that played, said, "Do you understand what would happen during meetings? Bill Belichick would come in and he would yell at Tom Brady and he'd get on Tom Brady, and Tom Brady would be sitting in the front row taking it." What kind of message does that send? It sends a message that, wow, Tom Brady sits here, he takes the abuse, he takes the criticism, doesn't say a word, and goes out and ends up being one of the hardest workers and the best players. It creates, to me, the best kind of peer pressure. Really, we talk about peer pressure all the time, right? As parents out there, you worry about your kids succumbing to peer pressure. All of us can recall examples probably where we were tempted by peer pressure or fell victim to peer pressure, right? What I'm talking about here is the best kind of peer pressure, the best kind of sports peer pressure, where you have somebody who sets such an example that everybody has no choice but to follow it. And again, that no choice has kind of a negative connotation, like, oh boy, kicking and screaming and rolling my eyes, and I got to go do what Nathan MacKinnon does. No, when I say have no choice but to follow, it's oftentimes becomes a willingness thing. But there is that sort of, hey, you know what? I thought I was working hard. This guy over here is showing me I can work harder. And that is what ends up creating a winning culture. And I don't think it's a coincidence that in this age of MacKinnon, all these years here with the Avalanche, what's this now, his 11th year, you see the Avalanche becoming the annual year in, year out Stanley Cup juggernaut contender that they are. It's not by coincidence, folks. It has to come from somewhere. And to me, when I see a Nathan MacKinnon playing the way he's playing, and you learn more about what goes into how he goes about his business and how the rest of the team is following suit, then all of a sudden it doesn't seem so hard to explain why this team, once again, is competing for a Stanley Cup. So I think it's awesome. It's something that, whether you're an Avalanche fan or a Nuggets fan, please, please, please treasure what you have going on right now, because you have two franchises, two teams that are doing it the right way, and you have two superstars who absolutely do things the right way. And they do it in a way that is so pure, really, that it truly does set the tone for those entire organizations. And you know what you get? You get two teams that win championships and are competing for more. It's not an accident. So anyway, that'll do it for this edition of the Mile High Hockey Podcast presented by Fort Comfort Gutters. Again, next week they're off, but we'll probably be able to come up with a few hockey topics and Avalanche topics to be able to talk about next week as well. So have a great weekend. Enjoy your hockey break. Enjoy the All-Star break, and we'll talk to you again next week.